guys, so I'm going to respond to a lot of the drama that's been going on over the past couple of weeks and fill you in. It might take a little while, so I apologize in advance for the length of this video, but I want to start off by giving kind of a personal story. A lot of you guys already know this, but I was raised very religious, and my mom's side was Catholic, and whenever I started moving away from religion, I decided to become a Protestant because I thought somehow not being a Catholic anymore would fix the problems that I had with religion, which it obviously didn't. But this actually offended that part of my family because it was cultural. You know, they took it personally, and they had asked me questions like, you know, Jacqueline, why aren't you going to be Catholic anymore? Like, what are some of your reasons for not liking the Catholic Church? Well, my initial response was the string of priests who would be pedophiles and the church blatantly going out of their way to cover it up or move these priests to a new location, to a new church where people didn't know their history, and it was just disgusting to me. And instead of responding, you know, in an agreeable manner, they got very defensive, they took it personally, and they would say things, well, like, not all priests are pedophiles. And I see this as a trend in a lot of religious people, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too, but, you know, they'll say, well, we're not all homophobic, or we're not all against women's rights, or we're not all Tea Party members, or not all priests are pedophiles. It's like, responding like that makes me think two different things. Either they're personally guilty of whatever it is I'm accusing them of, so they take it personally, or they know somebody who's done it and they're pledging allegiance to them, so they're also offended. So it either applies to you or you're covering it up for somebody else. Neither one are good options. So how can this be avoided? My answer to this is acknowledgement, and it may seem like a little bit off topic here, but I've recently been reading the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and it talks a lot about acknowledgement, and this is important especially for women, because a lot of times men try to tell us that we shouldn't be feeling the way that we're feeling, and it delegitimizes our feelings on certain things. So if a woman comes home and she's complaining about somebody at work who's maybe harassing her, or just someone who's really difficult to work with, you should first acknowledge that. Be like, wow, I'm really sorry that you have to go through this, it must suck, but let's try to focus on the positive. So before you try to diffuse the situation, acknowledge that the situation exists, and then move forward. And this is actually a pretty valuable piece of advice for guys out there, so take note. But the reason why I bring it up is because I feel like it can be applied here too. Whenever you see a situation like this, you can be like, yeah, you know what? A lot of priests have been doing this, and it's absolutely disgusting, and I hate that that reflects on people of the Catholic faith. That is so much better, and that would be the end of the conversation. Say things like, I really hate that a lot of Christians are homophobic, and I wish more people would be open-minded. It would be so much more of a productive conversation, and as people who are vloggers or bloggers or writers or critics of any kind, you understand that you point out these types of extreme behaviors to make a point. Don't be that guy. So whenever I made my last video, I was pointing out behaviors that I have observed within the feminist community. It doesn't apply to all feminists. Guess who it applies to? It applies to people who act the way I portrayed in the video. If that's not you, it shouldn't matter. So by certain people getting really offended by the video that I made, it kind of tells me that I hit pretty close to home, and it's funny that I make a video criticizing over-the-top behaviors and it's responded to with over-the-top behaviors like that's going to help their cause. Well, of course, P.Z. Myers wrote about this and complained that mocking behaviors was not effective. That's fine, but whenever I mocked creationists in a video that also happened to defend him, he sang my praises, but this time it's different. And if I had the chance to go back and redo that video and choose whether or not I wanted to defend him, I actually still would, because I agree with his positions on religion, and if he is able to free people's minds of the bondage that I see as religion, then I'm not going to be a roadblock, and I wish that feeling were mutual. So PC's a feminist, but I've repeatedly seen him make comments about me, saying things like, she's just a cute girl. And I've seen this type of behavior from other feminists too. And if you ask me, it's just a bit ironic. Nonetheless, he calls me an anti-feminist, and links to this post, "Feminist atheists are divisive, exclamation point, one," which pretty much does the same thing. I make videos on women's rights all the time. I am not an anti-feminist, but there's probably no convincing you, because if I don't agree with you on every single point, you think that I'm against the whole thing, which is kind of ridiculous. You're being divisive because you're not agreeing with every word that I say. And by the way, I've had that stupid wig for years. I got it a long time ago for some random Halloween costume, and I use it from time to time to portray other characters. I wasn't trying to resemble anybody, but for those of you who think that I was trying to resemble Christina, feel free to mail me other wig options if the one that I had offended you. My P.O. box is in the description below. And speaking of Christina, we're actually friends. We've hung out several times, the most recent one being at TAM, and we actually discussed feminism while we were there, and guess what? We agreed on most things. She actually can't stand Anita Sarkeesian and is thinking about making a video about it, so does that make her an anti-feminist? Of course not. She's a reasonable person, and even though we disagree on some things, we would rather focus on what we can do working together rather than foaming at the mouth at trying to think of ways to bring each other down. Like I said, we don't agree on everything. So we have little debates, whether it be via YouTube or over drinks. And then guess what? We move on. So as expected, I got a lot of hate on my last video, and someone left a comment defending me. It was spot on. So I added to it and I posted it on my Facebook. Now, whenever I do something wrong, I like to admit it. I like to correct it as soon as possible. I don't like to cover it up or pretend like it didn't happen. I try to fix it as soon as possible. So when people had an issue with my lack of a citation, I went back and added it. Didn't think it was that big of a deal, kind of petty, but I get it, I understand, seriously. But then of course, as expected, you get the typical response, she only fixed it because we said something. So would you have me not fix it? And that's another thing, it seems like admitting that you're wrong is viewed as an even worse crime. There's no winning with them. I mean, no wonder they don't want to give an inch. No wonder acknowledgement of a problem is such an issue, because they view it as a weakness. And this is a great example of their fundamental issue. We would rather call you an anti-feminist than admit that there have been serious failings within the Atheism Plus movement, because admitting error is demonized. So whenever I make comments about the atheist community being more than just atheism, I get a lot of shit for two different reasons. First of all, people feel like there should be no community, like that's a prerequisite to being an atheist. There can be no community. And to be honest, if you look at the community, it's more anti-theists than atheists, but we just say atheists, and we fight to end the problems that religion causes society, and that includes equal rights in other areas too. Honestly, what Atheism Plus stands for, or what it should stand for, is great. So whenever I talk about these other issues as part of the atheist community, people like P.Z. Myers like to hop up and say, looks like you're in favor of Atheism Plus. Nope, sorry, but no. When I was in high school, way back when I was in high school, there was a club that liked to play movies and serve popcorn. They called it Movies and Popcorn. Now, whenever people would go to this, they were really excited, they had great ideas for it, people freaking love movies, people freaking love popcorn, what could go wrong? Well, they served stale popcorn, the movies weren't entertaining, and the kids would stick their hands into the pot to serve the popcorn, and they weren't wearing gloves, and it was kind of gross. So needless to say, this club flopped. Now, my not joining this club had everything to do with the way things were being handled and the quality of the products, and nothing to do with the fact that movies and popcorn are an awesome combination. So yeah, the sentiment behind ending oppression from religion and also ending other forms of bigotry is a great combination, but I'm not joining your club. One of my biggest pet peeves is a lack of direct communication. So if you're my friend, or if you're a friend of a friend, I wish that they would try to actually talk to me before making things a public issue. Don't assume that you know my intentions. Question me privately before, and make sure that I mean what you think I mean before publicly declaring the worst possible interpretation. I'm actually not that difficult to get a hold of, and one of these bloggers fits that description but didn't make an attempt to contact me directly because I have this exaggerated number of fans. You know what? You didn't try, you didn't want to, you said it yourself. You're a writer, not a diplomat. Well, that's pretty clear, because the definition of a diplomat is a person who can deal with people in a sensitive and effective way. Sensitivity is one thing, but effective is the key word here. She's not necessarily concerned with being effective because she's a writer. They like stories, and plots are lame without a villain. My hair's already pretty dark, so why not? They'll use any method to bring me down. They'll attack me with other things. They will focus on things totally irrelevant to my criticism of extreme feminism, because it's easier to bring me down than to actually address my points, because remember, admitting error is demonized. And I'm not special, this isn't something that just happens to me. It recently happened to my friend Dusty from Cult of Dusty. He made some insensitive comments about Jews that he admitted were jokes, but he's still hated for it. And then I see things like this. Where's the outrage? Oh, Louis C.K.'s just funny, but Dusty? Nope, he's serious about hating Jews, even though he clearly said it was a joke. But who cares? He was screen captured and put on blast by, again, someone in our community. So what does he do? He apologizes to them. He extends an olive branch. He writes them a letter trying to make a friendship happen, even though they obviously disagree with him. He admitted error. They didn't care. So when you take a step back and you look at the big picture, you can start to see a little bit of a trend. I think some of these people go after other atheists because it's easier to attack somebody else than to actually solve real problems, and I think that's why they do it. They get their ego stroked by taking someone popular down a peg, but still feel like they're doing something productive by advancing the conversation. And this is really frustrating to me because I don't expect that at all. Like I said, I've had disagreements with Christina, but we're still friends. I mean, one minute we may be having a debate on the specifics of some topic, but the next minute we're working together to fight religion as a whole. So I don't think there's anything wrong with disagreeing with someone as long as you keep it respectful and make an attempt to work past your differences. That's all I'm asking for. I think all the drama that's been going on recently is pathetic because, like we've seen, they're writers, not diplomats. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it everywhere. Hopefully it was somewhat enlightening on what's been going on over the past couple of weeks. If you like my channel, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr and Instagram, and I actually just started a Vine. Also, if you'd like, check out my atheist t-shirts at jacquelineglenn.com, and if you want to support me on Patreon, I will have a link to that in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
There's no God, he doesn't exist, so don't